Hello. I want to join into a discussion about crab theory, which is signed this way. Several of you have your own perspectives on what the crab theory specifically is. However, my perspective today is going to be within the aspect of deaf history and the deaf community. I've actually researched different articles that are on Gallaudet University's website, which is a deaf college in Washington, D.C., and I saw different articles that actually talk about discrimination, oppression, and negative criticisms. But these articles were written in the 1940s, and they did not necessarily use the term crab theory. However, I do think that it reflects different similarities of the crab theory. At that time, the crab theory wasn't a term that was invented, so I'm going to take the aspect and think in the realm of the 1940s. Now, George Veditz, he was a person that a lot of people wrote articles about. And in the 1960s, there were articles that were written by Thomas Gray, and he lived in the windy city of Chicago, and he actually negatively identified George Veditz as a person who was of modality. They identified him as a person who wanted to stand by himself and wanted to take strong control and didn't necessarily want to be involved in his deaf community, such as Hitler was in his time, how he wanted to take control of other people. Now, it brought me to think, why did Thomas Gray make the comparison between George Veditz and Hitler himself? Now, George Veditz, he was a strong person who definitely wanted to strengthen the deaf community and allow deaf people to stand above themselves. And in the 1940s, it was definitely harder for deaf people to strengthen themselves and overcome oppression. However, Thomas Gray took a different stance and had a lot of negative connotations that claimed George Veditz as a totalitarian. And it brought me to think, why would he do this? Especially if George Veditz was the NAD president. He had a lot of political positions that strengthened deaf community. And he was a person who stood alone to take these fights for political rights. And he specifically fought for deaf people to be able to drive and so that they would be able to stand on their own. So I can understand why Thomas Gray actually claimed him as an individualist and one who stood alone, because in fact he did. However, it's strange that they called him a totalitarian. Now, do you think that he specifically contributed to the crab theory and made that actually claim George Veditz to be a negative influence of the deaf community because of that?